They say the workplace is a battlefield, but I had always believed it could be a place of growth and recognition, until the day my boss shattered that illusion with a single cruel sentence. At 34, Rachel Thompson, had poured years of my life into climbing the corporate ladder, burning the midnight oil, sacrificing weekends, and pushing myself beyond limits. I thought my dedication would speak for itself, but instead I was told I was too ugly to be considered for a promotion. That moment didn't just sting. It shattered my confidence and made me question everything I had built. I remember it as clearly as if it happened yesterday. The office was buzzing with the usual noise, phones ringing, keyboards clicking. But when my boss called me into his glass-walled office, a strange stillness fell over me. I had expected a routine update or feedback on the latest project, but what came next was a blow I never saw coming. His words cut deeper than any harsh critique. "Rachel, I'm sorry, but you're just too ugly for the promotion. It's a client-facing role. Looks matter." The room felt like it tilted, and the color drained from my face. I wanted to laugh, to argue, to cry, anything but sit there stunned. That moment replayed in my mind countless times afterward. How could someone who was supposed to be a leader, someone I respected, reduce my worth to my appearance? I had spent years proving my value through results, innovation, and teamwork. I had stayed late to finish reports, mentored junior staff, and taken on extra responsibilities without complaint. Yet, all that seemed invisible now, overshadowed by a shallow, heartless judgment. I had grown up in a modest household, where hard work was the currency of success. My parents taught me that dedication and integrity would open doors, and I believed them. Graduating with honors, landing my first job at the company, and steadily rising through the ranks was my way of honoring those lessons. But in that glass office, it felt like those efforts were meaningless. I was suddenly not enough, because of something as superficial as looks. For days after that conversation, I drifted through my routine in a haze of humiliation and disbelief. I avoided looking in mirrors, dreading the reflection that now seemed like the source of my failure. I confided in no one at first, swallowing the bitterness and shame alone. I questioned my self-worth and wondered if I was deluding myself all along. Maybe I wasn't as capable or as deserving as I thought. But beneath the despair, a fire began to kindle. A quiet but fierce determination not to be defined by someone else's shallow standards. I refused to let that moment break me. I decided that if my boss saw me only through the lens of appearance, I would prove him wrong by letting my work, my skills, and my character shine brighter than any superficial judgment. This wasn't just about a promotion anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity and self-respect. I vowed to show the company and myself that true value comes from what you bring to the table, not how you look while doing it. As I wrestled with these emotions, I found unexpected strength in an unlikely place. My colleague Sarah. She had noticed my sudden withdrawal and invited me to lunch one afternoon. Over sandwiches in the break room, I finally let the words tumble out, the insult, the humiliation, the doubt. Sarah listened without interruption, her eyes steady and kind. "You're more than what he said," she told me firmly. "You've got talent, intelligence, and grit. Don't let one ignorant comment define your worth. Let it fuel you instead." Her encouragement was like a lifeline, pulling me from the depths of self-doubt. With her support, I began to see my situation not as a defeat but as a challenge. That evening, I sat at my desk long after the office had emptied, reflecting on Sarah's words. I realized that I couldn't change my boss's shallow mindset, but I could change how I responded. I started making a plan not just to prove him wrong, but to prove to myself that I was worthy of every opportunity one desired. I began researching professional development courses, leadership workshops, and networking events. If I wanted this promotion, I needed to sharpen my skills and become undeniable. I signed up for a leadership seminar happening in the city the following month and enrolled in an online course on strategic management. Every spare minute was dedicated to learning and growth. Simultaneously, I started documenting every success, every milestone, and every positive feedback from clients and colleagues. I created a detailed portfolio showcasing the projects I had led, the revenue I had helped generate, and the teams I had inspired. It was a tangible reminder of my capabilities, something I could present confidently when the next opportunity arose. I also began to build alliances within the company. I reached out to mentors, attended more networking events, and volunteered for high-visibility projects. I wanted to surround myself with people who saw me for who I truly was and could vouch for my value beyond appearances. Slowly but surely, my professional circle expanded, and with it, my confidence. Yet, despite all these efforts, the sting of that comment lingered. It was a shadow that followed me in meetings and presentations, a whisper of doubt I had to silence every day. Some mornings I caught myself hesitating before speaking up, worrying about how I was perceived. But each time I reminded myself that my worth was not measured by beauty standards set by someone else. I thought often about how many others might have faced similar cruelty in silence. How many talented people had been sidelined because of superficial judgments. It fueled my resolve to not just fight for myself, but to pave a path where merit was the true measure of success. The weeks passed, and with every project I completed, every positive review I received, I felt the fire inside me grow stronger. I was no longer just the woman who had been told she was too ugly. I was Rachel Thompson, the dedicated, capable, and resilient professional who refused to be defined by anyone's narrow view. I knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. The promotion I sought was still out of reach, and the company culture was slow to change. But for the first time since that devastating conversation, I felt hopeful. I had taken the first steps to reclaiming my destiny, and I was ready to face whatever came next with my head held high. Looking back now, I realized that moment of cruel rejection, painful as it was, became the catalyst for a transformation I never anticipated. It ignited a fire that would propel me beyond the limits others tried to impose on me. And this was only the beginning. The days following that fateful conversation with my boss were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Anger surged beneath the surface, mingling with humiliation and disbelief. How could someone I worked alongside, someone who was supposed to value my contribution, dismiss me so callously? I wrestled with these feelings in silence, carrying the weight of that insult like a heavy stone in my chest. It was Sarah who finally broke through my walls. One afternoon, as the office hummed with the usual activity, I found myself lingering near the coffee machine, lost in thought. Sarah approached, her expression gentle but determined. "Rachel, you've been quiet lately. Want to grab lunch?" she asked, her voice steady. I hesitated but nodded. Over sandwiches in the small break room, I let the words spill out. The conversation with my boss, the sting of his words, the doubt creeping into my mind. Sarah listened without judgment, her eyes meeting mine with unwavering support. "Don't let one person's ignorance define your worth," she said firmly. "You've got more talent and drive than most people I know. Use this as fuel, not a cage." Her words planted a seed of resolve deep within me. That evening I sat at my kitchen table, the glow of my laptop illuminating the notes I began to take. I realized that if I wanted to change how others saw me, I first had to change how I saw myself. I needed to reclaim my confidence and build a foundation so strong that no shallow judgment could shake it. I started by researching professional development opportunities. The more I read about courses, workshops, and seminars, the more determined I became. I found a leadership seminar scheduled for the next month in the city, a chance to learn from industry experts and network with peers. Without hesitation, I signed up. Next, I enrolled in an online strategic management course, eager to sharpen my skills and deepen my understanding of the business. Every spare moment outside of work was devoted to these courses. Late nights became my new norm, illuminated by the soft glow of my laptop screen as I absorbed concepts and completed assignments. The exhaustion was real, but so was the growing sense of purpose. With each lesson, I felt myself becoming more equipped, more ready. Alongside building my skills, I began meticulously documenting my achievements at work. I gathered emails praising my efforts, compiled reports demonstrating my impact, and created summaries of projects I had led to success. This portfolio became a tangible testament to my capabilities, a shield against any future dismissals based on superficial criteria. Recognizing the importance of relationships, I also started to build alliances within the company. No longer content to stay in the shadows, I volunteered for high-profile projects and made it a point to attend networking events. I reconnected with mentors who had guided me early in my career and sought their advice on navigating the political landscape of the office. These connections became pillars of support, reminding me I was not alone in this fight. Despite these efforts, The sting of my boss's words lingered. There were moments in meetings when I caught myself hesitating, afraid my ideas would be dismissed before they were even heard. But each time I pushed back against that doubt, reminding myself that my voice deserved to be heard. One day, during a team meeting, I had prepared a presentation on a new client acquisition strategy, a project I had poured weeks of research and planning into. As I spoke, I noticed a few skeptical glances, but I held my ground, confident in the data and insights I shared. By the end, the room was buzzing with questions and ideas, and my manager even nodded in approval. That moment was a turning point. It showed me that my work could command respect, regardless of any preconceived notions about my appearance. It was proof that competence and dedication spoke louder than shallow judgments. Outside the office, Sarah continued to be a source of encouragement. We often met for coffee, where she challenged me to see beyond the immediate pain and envision the future I deserved. "You're building something bigger than just a promotion," she said one afternoon. "You're reclaiming your story." Her unwavering belief in me was a lifeline during the toughest days. When self-doubt crept in, I reminded myself of her words and the progress I had made. No longer was I defined by a single hurtful comment. I was becoming the architect of my own success. As weeks turned into months, my efforts began to yield tangible results. I led a project that increased our client retention rates by 15%, earning praise from senior management. I became a regular contributor in strategy meetings, my insights valued and sought after. Slowly, the narrative around me started to shift. Yet, despite these achievements, the path was not without obstacles. My boss, it seemed, was intent on undermining me whenever possible. He assigned me menial tasks that had little to do with my expertise, and often excluded me from key meetings. His disdain was palpable, a constant reminder that the battle was far from over. But I had grown stronger, fortified by my skills, my allies, and my own resilience. Each attempt to sideline me only reinforced my determination to succeed on my own terms. I refused to let his narrow-mindedness dictate my future. I began strategizing ways to showcase my leadership and results more visibly within the company. I proposed a cross-departmental initiative aimed at streamlining client communication, a project that would require collaboration and offer high exposure. My proposal was approved, and I assembled a diverse team to bring it to life. Leading this initiative was both challenging and exhilarating. I coordinated meetings, delegated tasks, and navigated interpersonal dynamics with a newfound confidence. The project's success not only improved client satisfaction, but also highlighted my leadership capabilities to a wider audience. Throughout this journey, I learned the power of perseverance and self-belief. I discovered that while others might try to define you by superficial measures, ultimately, your value is determined by your actions and integrity. Sarah's words echoed in my mind often. "Let this be your fuel." And fuel it became. A fire that propelled me forward, transforming humiliation into motivation, doubt into determination. I was no longer the woman silenced by a cruel comment. I was Rachel Thompson, a professional who refused to be boxed in by superficial judgments, a leader in the making, and a force to be reckoned with. This chapter of my life was far from over, but with each step, I was forging a path toward the recognition I deserved. And I knew that with persistence and courage, I would reach it on my own terms. The momentum I had built over the past months was undeniable. The client communication initiative, which I had painstakingly designed and led, became a resounding success. Not only did it significantly improve our retention rates, but it also caught the attention of senior management, sparking conversations about the potential for me to take on bigger responsibilities. The recognition I had long sought was finally within reach, but with newfound visibility came new challenges, and I quickly learned that success often awakens opposition. The buzz around my leadership was spreading like wildfire. Colleagues who had once overlooked me now sought my input. Emails of praise and congratulations filled my inbox, and whispers of my name circulated in executive circles. It was a heady feeling, a validation of the countless hours I had poured into proving my worth. But amid the accolades, my boss remained a constant shadow, determined to undermine every step I took forward. One afternoon, just as I was preparing to present the latest results of our initiative at a departmental meeting, I received an unexpected email from him. The message was curt, instructing me to hand over the project to another team member, citing a vague realignment of priorities. The timing was suspicious, and the tone unmistakably dismissive. It was a clear attempt to strip me of credit and momentum. Rather than reacting impulsively, I took a deep breath and gathered my thoughts. I reached out to my mentors and trusted colleagues, sharing the situation and seeking advice. Their support was unwavering. They reminded me that my growing network and documented successes were my strongest assets, and that I needed to let my results speak louder than any undermining efforts. Armed with this encouragement, I decided to confront the situation head-on. During the next company-wide meeting where future projects and promotions were discussed, I prepared thoroughly, not just with data and reports, but with a calm, assertive mindset. This was my moment to demonstrate that my contributions could not be diminished by petty tactics. As the meeting progressed, my boss attempted to sideline me, glossing over my achievements and promoting others instead. But when the floor opened for discussion, I stood up confidently and presented a detailed overview of the initiative's impact. The 15% increase in client retention, the streamlined communication protocols, and the positive feedback from key accounts. I had charts, testimonials, and a clear vision for the next phase. The room fell silent as I spoke, the evidence irrefutable. Colleagues who had once doubted me nodded in agreement, and even some of my boss's closest allies seemed impressed. I then addressed the elephant in the room, his earlier attempt to remove me from the project. I spoke not with anger but with measured resolve, expressing how such actions undermined not only my work but the team's progress. The confrontation was a shock to many, including my boss. He faltered, caught off guard by my composure and the breadth of support I had garnered. For the first time, he was forced to acknowledge my contributions openly, unable to dismiss me behind closed doors. Following the meeting, I was approached by several senior leaders who expressed their admiration for my professionalism and results. Their encouragement bolstered my confidence and signaled a shift in the company's perception of me. It was clear that the tide was turning. In the weeks that followed, I was entrusted with leading a high-profile client acquisition project, an opportunity that had previously been out of reach. I assembled a diverse team, drawing on the talents of individuals from various departments. Together, we crafted strategies that not only won new business, but also strengthened existing relationships. Managing this project tested every skill I had honed over the past year. I navigated complex negotiations, coordinated cross-functional efforts, and addressed unforeseen challenges with agility. The experience was demanding, but it also affirmed my capabilities as a leader. Throughout this period, I remained mindful of the importance of maintaining my integrity and focus. I refused to be distracted by office politics or petty attempts to derail me. Instead, I concentrated on delivering results that spoke for themselves. The success of the client acquisition project further solidified my reputation. I received commendations from executives and heartfelt thanks from team members who appreciated my inclusive leadership style. More importantly, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that my perseverance and dedication had transformed me from an overlooked employee into a respected professional. Yet, despite these victories, I remained aware that the journey was far from over. My boss's subtle resistance persisted, manifesting in last-minute changes to my responsibilities and occasional exclusion from strategic discussions. But I had learned to navigate these obstacles with grace, relying on my support network and unwavering self-belief. One evening, as I reviewed the quarterly reports that reflected the fruits of my labor, I realized how far I had come. The woman who had once doubted her worth, who had been told she was too ugly to succeed, was now leading initiatives that shaped the company's future. The transformation was not just professional but deeply personal. I began to see that my true power lay not in external validation but in resilience, the ability to rise above adversity and define my own narrative. Each project I led, each challenge I overcame, reinforced the truth that competence and character outweighed superficial judgments. This period of growth also inspired me to mentor others facing similar barriers. I started informal sessions with junior colleagues, sharing my experiences and strategies for overcoming workplace discrimination. Seeing their confidence bloom was a reward beyond measure. As the months unfolded, I continued to document my achievements meticulously, knowing that this record would be crucial when the next promotion cycle arrived. I prepared not just for the formal review but for the inevitable conversations that would come with it. Through it all, I held on to the lesson that had carried me this far. Success is not just about proving others wrong, but about proving to yourself that you are capable, worthy, and deserving. The fire ignited by that cruel comment had become a blazing force, driving me to heights I had once only dreamed of reaching. And with each step forward, I was reminded that the path to true recognition is paved with perseverance, courage, and an unshakable belief in one's own value. The day of the promotion meeting arrived with a mix of anticipation and quiet resolve. I had prepared meticulously, not just with facts and figures, but with a clear understanding of my worth and the courage to confront the past head-on. The memory of my boss's cruel words still lingered, but instead of allowing them to weaken me, I had transformed that pain into strength. This meeting was more than a mere discussion about advancement. It was the moment I would reclaim my dignity. As I entered the sleek conference room, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of curiosity and expectation. Around the polished table sat the senior leadership team, including my boss, whose expression was guarded yet unreadable. I took my seat, heart steady, and readied myself to speak my truth. When the floor opened to discuss the candidates for the upcoming promotion, I listened carefully as others were presented. My boss, true to form, began minimizing my contributions, subtly implying that my leadership was not quite ready for the responsibilities of the new role. His words stung, but I remained composed, knowing that this was my moment to rise. When it was my turn, I began calmly, presenting a comprehensive overview of my achievements. The client retention increase, the successful cross-departmental initiatives, and the glowing feedback from both clients and colleagues. I had charts, detailed reports, and testimonials at my fingertips, each piece a testament to my dedication and impact. Then, gathering my courage, I addressed the underlying issue head-on. I spoke of the hurt caused by the dismissive comment that had questioned my worth based on appearance, a moment that had threatened to derail my confidence, but instead ignited a fire within me. I expressed how that remark was not just a personal attack, but a reflection of a mindset that undermines the value of talent and hard work. The room fell into a heavy silence. My words hung in the air, undeniable and raw. I did not accuse or lash out. Instead, I spoke with measured honesty and unwavering conviction. The vulnerability in that moment was powerful, and it resonated with many around the table. My boss shifted uncomfortably, caught off guard by the directness and sincerity of my confrontation. For the first time, he was forced to acknowledge, in front of his peers, the unfairness of his earlier judgment. His silence spoke volumes. Several colleagues nodded in quiet agreement, and a few spoke up, reinforcing the value I had brought to the company and the growth I had demonstrated. The narrative that had once been shaped by superficial bias was now being rewritten by undeniable merit. As the meeting progressed, the decision became clear. I was awarded the promotion, not as a favor or consolation, but as recognition of my undeniable capabilities, resilience, and leadership. The validation was profound, a triumph born from years of perseverance and self-belief. Walking out of that room, I felt a surge of emotions: relief, pride, and a deep sense of justice. The journey had been arduous, marked by moments of doubt and pain, but the outcome affirmed that integrity and hard work could overcome prejudice. In the days that followed, the promotion brought a new set of responsibilities and opportunities. I embraced each challenge with renewed vigor, determined to lead with empathy and strength. I also recognized the importance of using my experience to mentor others who faced similar obstacles. The relationship with my boss shifted subtly. While it remained professional and at times strained, there was an unspoken respect, perhaps grudging, acknowledgement that I had earned my place through merit. I continued to demonstrate that talent and dedication outweighed any shallow judgments. This experience reshaped my perspective on leadership and self-worth. I understood that true confidence comes not from external validation alone, but from the inner conviction to stand firm in the face of adversity. The confrontation in that meeting was a defining moment, a reclaiming of my voice and power. As I settled into my new role, I made it a point to advocate for fairness and inclusivity within the company. I wanted to ensure that no one else would have to endure the kind of discrimination I faced. It became a mission to foster an environment where talent was recognized without bias and opportunities were accessible to all. Reflecting on this chapter of my life, I realized that the hardest battles often lead to the most meaningful victories. The pain of being judged unfairly was transformed into a catalyst for growth, not just for me but for the culture around me. This promotion was not just a career milestone. It was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of standing up for oneself, and the possibility of change even in the most challenging environments. As I looked toward the future, I carried with me the lessons learned. To confront injustice with calm strength, to let achievement speak louder than prejudice, and to never allow anyone to define my worth by anything less than my true value. With the promotion finally in hand, a new chapter of my life unfolded. One filled not only with increased responsibility, but also with an unexpected sense of empowerment. I was no longer just trying to prove my worth to others. I was beginning to see it for myself, and that made all the difference. The journey from that humiliating moment when my boss dismissed me as too ugly to this point had transformed me in ways I never anticipated. Now I was ready to pay it forward. One of the first things I did after stepping into my new role was to set up a mentorship program within the company. I had encountered so many talented individuals who, like me, had faced subtle, or not so subtle forms of discrimination and bias. I wanted to create a space where voices could be heard, skills nurtured, and confidence rebuilt. Drawing from my own experiences, I designed workshops and one-on-one sessions aimed at empowering employees to overcome barriers, whether based on appearance, gender, race, or any other factor. The response was overwhelming. Colleagues from various departments signed up, eager for guidance and support. Hearing their stories reminded me of my own struggles and fueled my commitment to creating lasting change. We discussed strategies for handling workplace discrimination, building professional networks, and asserting oneself without fear. Watching others grow in confidence was deeply rewarding. It felt like I was turning my pain into purpose. Meanwhile, my relationship with my former boss shifted into a cautious but respectful professionalism. Though he never fully apologized for his earlier cruelty, his demeanor softened. In meetings, he listened more attentively to my input, and while we still didn't see eye to eye on everything, there was a grudging acknowledgement of my leadership. I chose to focus on the work and the progress we could make rather than dwelling on past grievances. The promotion also allowed me to influence company culture in meaningful ways. I advocated for policies that promoted diversity and inclusivity, pushing for transparent hiring and promotion practices that valued merit above all else. I worked with human resources to implement bias training sessions and diversity workshops, aiming to prevent anyone else from experiencing the kind of hurt I had endured. As I spearheaded these initiatives, I found a new sense of purpose. My role was no longer just about climbing the ladder, it was about changing the ladder itself, the system that had once tried to keep me down. I was determined to make the company a place where talent and dedication were the true currencies of success, not superficial judgments or personal biases. On a personal level, the promotion bolstered my confidence in ways I hadn't imagined. I began to mentor junior employees beyond the formal program, offering advice, encouragement, and sometimes, simply a listening ear. I took pride in seeing them overcome challenges and claim their own space in the professional world. There were still moments when the sting of my boss's words surfaced, a reminder of how deeply such comments can cut. But those moments grew fewer and less powerful. I had learned to define myself on my own terms, not by others' narrow standards. The strength I had cultivated carried me through, and I embraced my new identity as a confident leader. Reflecting on the journey, I realized how much I had grown. The woman who once questioned her worth was now a mentor, a changemaker, and a respected leader. The path had been fraught with obstacles, but each one had been an opportunity to learn, to fight, and to rise. I also came to understand the importance of resilience, not just in the face of blatant discrimination, but in the subtle, everyday challenges that women and minorities often face in the workplace. It was about persistence, self-belief, and the courage to speak up when silence felt safer. The promotion was not the end of the story, but rather a milestone on a longer journey toward equality and respect. I knew there would be more battles ahead, for me and for those I mentored, but I was ready to face them with the same determination that had brought me this far. Looking back, the insult that once threatened to break me became the catalyst for my greatest transformation. It forced me to confront my doubts, to seek allies, and to build a future that was not defined by others' prejudices, but by my own strength and vision. In this new chapter, I found fulfillment not just in professional success but in the opportunity to make a difference, to ensure that others would not have to endure what I had. The fire that had been ignited by pain had now become a beacon of hope and empowerment. As I continued to lead, mentor, and advocate, I carried with me the lesson that true leadership is not just about titles or promotions. It's about lifting others up, challenging injustice, and creating a legacy that transcends personal achievement. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer held power over me. Instead, they reminded me of how far I had come and how much I was capable of. And with that, I stepped confidently into the future, ready to inspire others to stand tall and shine, no matter the obstacles they faced. The promotion was more than a personal victory. It became the foundation for a broader mission that I was determined to champion within the company. Inspired by my own journey, I spearheaded an initiative focused on promoting diversity and inclusivity, a project that aimed to dismantle the biases and barriers that had once tried to hold me back. I wanted to create a workplace where talent and dedication were recognized above all else, regardless of appearance or background. The initiative began with a series of workshops and training sessions designed to raise awareness about unconscious bias and the subtle forms of discrimination that often go unnoticed. I collaborated with human resources and external experts to develop a curriculum that was both educational and engaging, encouraging employees at all levels to examine their own assumptions and behaviors. Attendance was mandatory for management, and the response, while mixed at first, gradually shifted toward genuine reflection and commitment. Alongside these workshops, I worked to implement transparent hiring and promotion policies. We introduced standardized evaluation criteria that focused on measurable achievements and leadership potential, reducing the influence of subjective judgments. These changes were met with some resistance. Old habits die hard. But the growing support from senior leaders and the visible improvements in team dynamics underscored their importance. I also launched a mentorship program that connected employees from underrepresented groups with seasoned professionals who could provide guidance and advocacy. Drawing from my own experience, I emphasized the power of community and support in overcoming workplace challenges. The program flourished, fostering connections that empowered individuals to pursue their goals with confidence. As the initiative took root, I found myself at the center of a cultural shift within the company. Colleagues who had once been indifferent or skeptical became active participants in creating a more inclusive environment. Success stories emerged. Employees who had struggled to find their footing were now thriving, their talents finally recognized and nurtured. This transformation extended beyond policies and programs. It touched the very fabric of our workplace culture. Meetings became more collaborative, feedback more constructive, and opportunities more accessible. The company began to attract a more diverse pool of talent, enriching our perspectives and driving innovation. Reflecting on this progress, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. What had begun as a personal battle against injustice had grown into a movement that touched countless lives. The pain of past rejection had been transformed into a catalyst for positive change, proving that adversity could be a powerful force for good. Looking back, I saw how the initial insult, the brutal comment that once threatened to define me, had instead propelled me to heights I never imagined. It had ignited a fire that not only fueled my own success, but also illuminated a path for others to follow. I often thought about those early days of doubt and hurt, and how far I had come since then. The journey had not been easy. It demanded resilience, courage, and an unwavering belief in my own worth. But it also taught me the importance of standing up, not just for myself, but for everyone who might face similar challenges. The legacy I hoped to leave was clear. A workplace where no one would be sidelined because of shallow judgments, where every individual's potential could flourish free from bias. Through the initiatives I championed, I wanted to ensure that others would not have to endure the pain I had experienced. As I continued to lead these efforts, I remained committed to fostering an environment of respect and opportunity. I mentored emerging leaders, advocated for equitable policies, and encouraged open dialogue about diversity and inclusion. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to make a difference. Ultimately, my story became more than just a tale of personal triumph. It became a testament to the power of perseverance and the possibility of change. It was a reminder that even in the face of injustice, one could rise, lead, and inspire. The best revenge, I realized, is not bitterness or retaliation but a life well lived, one that uplifts others and transforms pain into purpose. And as I looked to the future, I knew that this was just the beginning of a legacy that would continue to inspire and empower for years to come.